nurse at a hospital for veterans was shot and killed by Border Patrol agents on Saturday. NBC News has exclusive reporting that the Department of Homeland Security is now reviewing agent-worn body camera video of the shooting. It was also captured on video by eyewitnesses from several angles, and a warning, those videos are disturbing. They show PRETTI being shaken to the ground by a group of agents before at least one agent opens fire. We're going to go through some of those videos in a moment.
The Trump administration is facing growing backlash for the handling of its ongoing immigration crackdown. President Trump spoke with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the phone this morning. The president also says border czar Tom Homan is going to Minnesota tonight. The White House says he will be managing ICE operations on the ground. We're also monitoring two federal court hearings today. One is on a state lawsuit to end the deployment of immigration agents. The second is about a lawsuit from state investigators to force the federal government to try and preserve evidence from the shooting of Alex PRETTI. We have team coverage with our team of correspondents and analysts on the ground. We'll begin with NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal in Minneapolis. Camila, there is a growing memorial for Alex PRETTI. You are there now. What have you seen? What have you heard from people in the city?
Yes, and Clay, we continue to see people coming to this memorial to bring flowers and candles. And you can see some of the signs here. One of them says, "Nurses save lives, ICE ends them." Everybody just coming together despite really brutally cold temperatures. You can't be out here for more than 5 or 10 minutes, but people have still been coming here to honor and remember this local resident and ICU nurse, and many people here sharing two emotions. One of them being that sadness and that heartbreak for the loss of life. The other being the anger and the frustration for having these ICE agents and federal agents here in their state and in their neighborhoods. I recently saw one of the city council members posting and saying it's not just happening here, it's happening everywhere around the city where they are continuing to see federal operations, and they are frustrated because they say that this essentially is not keeping them safe. And the many people that I've spoken to here throughout the days in this memorial have told me that they too feel like it could have been them. A lot of people here are taking out their phones as soon as they see federal agents. There was a group of nurses here yesterday who, one of them told me, look, he was just helping that woman that was pushed into the snow, and that's what nurses do. They help other people. So we're seeing really the community come together, giving out hand warmers, coffee and hot tea and even pizza for all the people that are coming here. So it's really been a show of support for Alex PRETTI, his family, but also for the community as a whole. And the message continues to be that they don't want federal agents in their city, guys.
Camila Bernal, thank you so much. Let's go to NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Julia, you have new exclusive reporting that body camera footage from agents who were there is being looked at. It exists. What have you learned? And do we know what has happened to those agents who were involved in the shooting?
Well, we understand that they are BORTEC agents. That's the special tactical unit of Border Patrol. They're usually highly trained. I've seen them in the field do life-saving performances when they're trying to save someone who's crossed the border dehydrated, for example. And that unit happens to be the one unit that first got body cameras because of the highly technical work that they do often in dangerous situations. Even though Trump undid the mandatory requirement for all federal agents to have body cameras when he took office. So what that means is that now we understand and we can report that investigators have this incident from multiple angles from the body camera footage of the agents involved with the shooting of Alex PRETTI in Minneapolis on Saturday. And as they're reviewing that, they will then determine if they get enough evidence to refer to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation. That would be if they find that maybe he violated the civil rights of Alex PRETTI by a criminal act. That would be if one or more of those agents did so. So this body camera footage is very critical, and now we understand it's in the hands of investigators as they pore over what happened at this incident.
Yeah, hopefully will give us some clarity on what happened with Alex Pretty. Julia, thank you. Monica, I want to go to you now because we mentioned President Trump and Governor Walz spoke by phone this morning. The president even posting about it on Truth Social, talking about the pending arrival of border czar Tom Homan. Can you give us some of the top lines, especially as the governor has really been pushing for a reduction in federal agents in his state?
According to the governors in Clay and Kate, that's something that he says the president was open to considering. And at the White House press briefing today with Caroline Leavitt, she indicated that there was a certain criteria or certain conditions that could be met that could result in the outcome of reducing the federal agents that are on the ground. But I have to tell you, it's very striking just to have these two major developments. The fact that you had President Trump speaking with Governor Walz on the phone after a very acrimonious relationship, a very tense back and forth between the two of them in recent weeks and months, now having a conversation that both sides said was productive, calling it a good conversation. That shows you that there is perhaps an effort here to potentially bring down the escalating tensions after Saturday's shooting. And then the other big move here is the fact that the president announced he's going to send Tom Homan, the border czar, to oversee day-to-day operations there. That is a big change because it tells you that there's a shift in strategy about who, in terms of leadership, should be managing what's happening there. It's in Clay and Kate.
Let's bring in NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, who's on set with us here. Tom, the Department of Homeland Security says that Alex Pretty approached federal agents. They said that they reacted, and he reacted violently when they tried to disarm him. That's what they're saying. Go through some of the bystander videos that we have from the beginning and what we see.
Sure, in absence of that body-worn camera video that Julia was referencing, we do have at least 4 angles that appear to show this, at least a decent amount of the before the shooting occurred and a little bit of the afterwards. We can go through one of them now, which I think is probably pretty instructive for folks. You see him there, and this is a critical kind of freeze frame because we're able to see his hands. In his right hand, it's his cell phone. In his left hand, there's nothing in there, and he's being sprayed at that point with some sort of a chemical irritant, some sort of OC spray that they have. And so the interaction leading up to this really is him kind of backing off, and it's not until that protester or that person that's filming it is pushed to the ground that we see him then start to be engaged by these CPP officers. So it's not as if this is a situation as we've seen in the past where somebody walked up to CPP officers and had a gun out. Whether it was a smart idea to bring a gun or not is one thing. Whether or not it's legal or not to bring a gun, if he was in fact intending to go to that protest, it is in fact perfectly legal.
And I think we have other videos that we
do,
can show.
yes, and I meant to get to that. This is obviously a different angle, seeing the exact kind of same moment in time. You're seeing the spray there. You're seeing him in a moment here, apparently trying to help or at least engage with that person who was thrown to the ground, and then he is now taken down to the ground. We're going to see that in just a second right here. In the course of this, we're going to see shortly an area that's kind of got a little bit of a highlight that we've put on it to show when it appears that Pretty's weapon is taken from him off of his back waistband. After this, there's gun that is shouted by one of the officers that's there, and then the shooting occurs. You can see them start to, the officers scramble back once the shots are fired. So obviously that's going to be a critical moment. Was anything said there by anybody? Did Pretty say anything? Could that have led to this incident occurring? Is going to be a big question mark because obviously we see what we see in the.
And from an angle across the street from a store, you can see Pretty's hands while he's on the ground at least a couple of times.
At least a couple of times. They're in front of him, in front of his face, and you don't see anything in there. And of course, it would be a natural reaction when you're sprayed with that to put your hands to your face. Whether or not he was saying something that led them to believe he wouldn't be compliant or not, again, all part of the investigation. Hopefully we get there.
And Danny, on a different note, I want to bring you in, our legal analyst, and talk about this lawsuit from the state of Minnesota attempting to stop the deployment of federal agents. What arguments might we see from the state at this point?
The state of Minnesota is arguing that federal law enforcement in this manner by ICE violates the 10th Amendment and the anti-commandeering principle. That is a principle that the federal government cannot force the states to carry out federal law enforcement or federal policy. They can ask, the states can work together with the federal government, but according to the Constitution, the federal government cannot force the states to assist them in carrying out federal law, particularly in this case, federal law enforcement.
All right, Danny Savalos, Tom Winter, and Julia Ainsley and Monica Alba, thank you all so much for your coverage.
Coming up, the nation's leading pediatric medical group releases recommended childhood vaccine schedule, a new one, how it's different than the CDC's.
Plus, millions of tickets.